Have you ever desired to write a book one day? Have you ever wished you could be an author? Or maybe you're already an author and you're not making sales or you're not making money from your work and you're kind of frustrated and you think, well, maybe it wasn't even worth my time in the first place to write a book. Have you believed the lie that people do not read books anymore? Or maybe you want to write a book and you don't know where to start, you don't know how to start, you don't know why to start, you don't know where to finish, you don't just know what to do, and so you're confused and you're frustrated whether you are an aspiring author or you're an already published author. In today's conversation, I'm going to give you the exact steps that you can take to go from book fantasy to financial fortune. And when I'm talking about financial fortune, I'm talking about millions of dollars. Can you imagine writing a book and that book fetching you 6 to 7 figures, making you a millionaire? Maybe right now you're thinking, is it possible? Before I even answer the question of whether it's possible, I'd like to tell you a story. Right now, I've written 17 books and I'm on my 18th book as we speak. But when I launched my first book, a man in his 50s walked up to me and he was really attracted to the fact that I launched my book at that time. And that was about 8 years ago or thereabout. Now, this man was in his 50s at that time, and he was like, wow, this is so good. How did you come about this? How did you come about the idea to write a book? And how did you go about writing that book? And then he finally opened up to me and he told me that he had always wanted to write a book from when he was 25 years old. That was like 25 years before I launched my book. He had always wanted to write a book, but he had never been able to come around to writing that book. Have you ever met someone that is in this same predicament? Well, when I met that man, a seed was sown in my heart, and I became really concerned to help people who have a book idea in them, but they don't know how to flesh it out, and they don't know how to come about birthing that book brainchild into the world as a tangible reality. And so if you know someone that has a book in them that is unable to flesh that book out, maybe because they don't have time, they are busy with the kids, they are busy with their work, busy with their business, but deep within them, they have a silent burning desire to write a book. In fact, they get panic attacks when they think about the next 5 to 10 years of not being able to write their book. Then you want to recommend this to them also, and you want to subscribe to this conversation, subscribe to this channel, subscribe to this episode, subscribe to this podcast, wherever you're listening to this, so that you can get more transformational conversations like this that will help you go from book fantasy to financial fortune. Now, is it even possible to go from book fantasy to millions of dollars? Is it possible to turn your book fantasy to $1 million reality? I spelled it out for you here. And to answer that question, I'm going to give you 2 different case studies. And the first case study it goes by the name Jack Canfield. Jack Canfield was just an ordinary school teacher. And probably you're listening to me right now and you feel like, well, there's nothing really special about you or what you know or your story. I'm just an ordinary person. Well, you have to stop thinking that way. Jack Canfield was what we call an ordinary school teacher back then. And then he wrote a book. He found someone and collaborated with that person. And he wrote a book, and the book was titled Chicken Soup for the Soul. Can you imagine the title? Can you imagine that anyone would buy this book titled Chicken Soup for the Soul? Well, it turned out that Jack Canfield had already done his homework along with his partner, Mark Victor Hansen. And so the Chicken Soup for the Soul book went on to be a success after facing several rejections. In fact, they faced over 130 rejections trying to get their book published. But they kept going. The publishers rejected the book because it didn't make sense to write that kind of book or publish that kind of book. And so nobody wanted to throw their weight on that book. And Jack Canfield and Mark Victor Hansen, they kept going and going and going until they finally met someone who gave them a try. They met a publisher who gave them a shot at publishing their book. And guess what? That book went on to sell 500 million copies. Can you imagine that? Now, this is how Jack Canfield turned his life around forever. Jack Canfield and Mark Victor Hansen went on to make hundreds of millions of dollars from writing that book. And as at the time I checked, Jack Canfield was worth 50 million. His net worth was $50 million. And how did Jack Canfield come about that? By writing a book titled Chicken Soup for the Soul. So you may be listening to this and you're thinking, I'm just an ordinary person. Well, I don't think my book is worth writing. I really have this desire to write a book, but I don't know how to go about it. I don't know if it's worth my time. I don't know if it's worth my effort. What if you knew that you could become a millionaire just by writing a book? Would you give in to those same challenges that you're currently nursing in your mind and using as excuses not to give your book idea a shot at reality, a shot at coming alive? Would you stay stuck? Would you keep giving yourself the excuse that you're busy with the kids and you're busy with your work and business that is not yet where you want it to be, and that's why you can't write a book, if you knew that that book will make you a millionaire? The Chicken Soup for the Soul book was so successful that it turned out to be a company that birthed many other series under that same title. And Jack Canfield and his partner ended up selling the company. Can you imagine a book turning into a company that could be sold? And not only that, that company is now listed in NASDAQ, in the stock exchange market. And guess what? It has a $250 market cap, or rather a $250 million market cap. So just from writing a book, they birthed a company that was sold, and that company is also listed in NASDAQ, and it has a $250 million market cap. Now, does it stand to reason that if it worked for one person, two persons, three persons, four persons, 10 persons, 100 persons, there's a chance that if you knew the same system that they knew, if you figured out a way to leverage what they did in your own journey, does it stand to reason that you could at least get 1% of their success? And what is 1% of 500 million copies sold? Tell me in the chat. What is 1% of 500 million copies of a book sold? Now, 1% of 500 million copies is 5 million copies. Right? So imagine if you could just make 1% of success in your own journey as an aspiring author or as an already published author. You could take from their playbook, just take 2 pages from their playbook and score 1% of their success. What would life be like for you? Can you imagine? What would your reality be like? That is financial fortune right there. Let's say you even did only 0.1%, right? Let's say this is 1% and then you did 0.1%. 0.1% would be 500,000 copies. Do you know what your life would be like if you sold 500,000 copies of your book? Well, it's possible. Now, I told you that story for a reason. I told you that story to make you see that anybody can become successful as an author. If an ordinary school teacher can do it, you can do it. If after 130 rejections, he kept going, you too can do it if you have the right system, if you have the right information, if you have the right insight, if you have the right guidance, if you have the right mentors, if you have the right information, and if you have the right mindset. And so if Jack Canfield could do it as an ordinary school teacher, you too can do it, right? If you believe that, I want you to type "I believe" in the chat. Now I'm going to tell you another story of someone who also went from book fantasy to financial fortune. And the story I'm going to be telling you this time is the story of J.K. Rowling. Now, J.K. Rowling was an ordinary lady. She was a single mom. And she was on welfare before she wrote the book titled Harry Potter. And guess what? She also had problems getting someone to believe in her idea. She had problems getting someone to believe in her to publish her book. And after going through the hassle, she got someone to publish her book. Today, she's worth, at least as at the time I checked, she's worth £800 million. Can you imagine that? Now, today, publishing a book has become so easy. So anybody can publish a book. Anybody can, have access to publishing tools to help them publish their books, either by using online platforms like Amazon, KDP, or by getting vanity publishers to publish your book for a fee. So the barriers that used to stop previous authors are no longer there. You can now actually publish a book without going through the gatekeepers like it used to be back then. It has been democratized. Digitization has happened to us and it has been democratized. So you no longer have an excuse not to write your book. So you can go from book fantasy to financial fortune if you know what to do. Now, before we go into what to do, I'm going to give you 3 reasons why you should go from book fantasy to $1 million reality or to financial fortune. Now, the first reason I'm going to give you is so that you can claim credibility. By writing a book, you build authority. Writing a book is one of the easiest way to gain credibility in your industry. And it doesn't matter what industry you're in. Whether it's the industry for construction, whether it's the industry for real estate, whether it's the industry for finance, maybe you're a financial advisor, writing a book will put you ahead of your contemporaries faster than any other mechanism that I know of, right? So writing a book helps you project yourself as an authority, and that's where the whole idea of being an author came from. The word author is a root word for the word authority, right? So when you become an author, you automatically become an authority in the sphere where you wrote the book. Now, that's one of the reasons why you should write your book. Now, the second reason is this. It helps you cultivate community, right? It helps you cultivate community. And one of the things that makes a community what it is the ability to commune. And when you have a book with which people can commune with you, they become part of your community by default, right? And so if you're a content creator, if you're an influencer, and you're looking for a way to take people deeper, in a deeper level of communion with you, to have that communal fellowship with people, writing a book does that for you. And when you're able to build a community around your book, forget it, it's a wrap. That was what made Jack Canfield's book so successful. People fell in love with his book so much that they began to give him their own stories for him to write more books with their stories, right? They formed a community on his behalf. They formed a community around his book idea. So if you have a book idea, you want to figure out a way to present it to people such that it will help build them and help create a communal followership. Now, one reason why many people are scared of writing or they don't want to write their books, they feel like they don't have a following yet, or they feel like they are not a big celebrity, they don't have big followership. And so they feel like they should build a followership before they write a book. Well, there's some benefits to be a popular person or to have some followership before you write your book, but that's not a requirement, right? And the reason I say that is because writing a book is one of the easiest way to build a community, because with your book, people can commune with you. And the more you give people the opportunity to commune with you, the more immersed they become in your ideology and in your philosophy. And when you're able to pass your philosophy or transfer your philosophy to people by writing a book that makes sense, forget it. You're going to succeed. You're going to strike gold. And I mean it literally, right? Now, the third reason why you should write your book is this. It will help you create cash flow. Writing your book will help you create cash flow. And not just cash flow, massive cash flow. So there are many people, lots of people who have created massive cash flow because they wrote a book. The man who wrote the book, Think and Grow Rich, guess what? When he wrote the book, Think and Grow Rich, he was not a millionaire at the time. But because he wrote that book went on to be a success. That book was what made him rich, right? So you may be listening to me and you're feeling, oh, maybe I'm not the expert in the subject or in the industry where I feel like I want to write. Writing the book is what will make you the expert. Like I said in the first point I made, it would bring credibility to you because a book can help you preserve information and it can become a reference for people who are looking for that information. And when people go through your book, it gives them the opportunity to access you, to access your intellectual capacity, your mental capacity, your ability to communicate, and your ability to deliver results. And so automatically they feel persuaded that if you're able to put down the things you wrote in your book and do the research and do the work to articulate your ideas in a book, it means that you're a good person to do business with, or you're a good person to listen to, right? That's why writing a book is one of the easiest ways to get on big stages, to become a speaker, to become a consultant. Why? Because when people read your book, they are already pre-sold on your idea and philosophy. And so they feel like, oh, if this guy was smart enough to write all these wonderful things, or if this lady was smart enough to write all these beautiful things and package her story in this way, she definitely has something to say. He definitely has something worth listening to. Let's bring him to the stage to come speak to us. So just writing your book alone sets you up for an unending stream of opportunities that would blow you away, that will propel you into financial fortune, right? So it helps you create cash flow, and I'll go into more details when we go to the next point that I'm going to share with you. So just stick around as we go to the next point. Now that we've established all of these different interesting insights around why you should write your book and around the possibility of going from book fantasy to financial fortune, let's talk about what to do. What to do to go from book fantasy to financial fortune. Now, the first thing that you should do to go from book fantasy to financial fortune is to connect with the cravings of a community. And I will explain what that means. Connect with the cravings of a community. Now, the reason why many authors and aspiring authors are broke and frustrated is because they are trying to write a book they want to write. And so people don't care. People don't like you that much. When you write a book you want to write, you write a book because you want to write a book. That is the recipe for disaster, and that's the recipe for failure. That's the recipe for being broke as a joke and ready to choke. People don't buy books because you wrote a book. And so you want to write a book people want to read. So you want to write a book people want to read. Not a book you want to write. So if you write a book you want to write, okay, you're an adult, you're a full-blown adult, you can do what you want, right? You can write a book you want as against writing a book people want. But the thing is, when you write a book you want, guess what? Only you will read that book. Maybe you and your mama, right? But when you write a book that people want, people are going to buy that book. People are going to buy that book. People are going to read that book. They're going to take it with them to work. They're going to take it with them in the subway. They're going to read it. They're going to sleep on it. They're going to wake up reading your book, sleep reading your book, eat reading your book, and get immersed into your idea, into your insights, into your systems, into your framework by reading your book, right? But you have to do it the right way. You have to connect with the cravings of the community you're called to serve, or the community you're trying to serve or help. Your book has to be solving a problem for them. It has to be answering a burning question for them. It has to be doing something for them and not for you, right? And this is a big mistake that most authors and potential authors make. They write books that is doing something for them instead of writing books that is doing something for people. If it was about you, you didn't need to write a book. You can just document whatever you want to document in your to-do list or in your personal journal. But the moment you start writing a book with people in mind, you start writing what people want and not what you want, right? And even though you feel like what you want is what you think people should want, you have to start from the marketplace, start from helping people understand that what they want is possible to get by taking heed to what you have prepared for them. And so you are here to serve them what they want, and then when you serve them what they want, you can now embed what you think they want inside what they want. That way, it becomes a win-win situation, right? But you have to first connect with the craving community. Now, the second thing that you want to do to go from book fantasy to financial fortune is to deliver dynamic transformation, right? Deliver dynamic transformation. Now, what is a book? Have you ever asked yourself what really is a book? I know when you go to a dictionary, the dictionary will probably tell you that a book is something like this, right? And there's some truth in that. This is a book, but beyond the text, beyond what is printed in text, there's more to that. There's more to what a book is than what is printed in text, right? Now, here's what I define a book as. A book is a transformation packaged in the form of written text. So the book is not just the text, but is the transformation that is embedded in the written text. So the book is not just the written text, the book is the transformation that is embedded in the written text. Another way I like to define a book is a book represents the thoughts, the ideas, and the transformations that go through the mind of people when they read a written text. So I don't refer to the book as the physical, tangible thing. I refer to the book as what goes through the mind of people and what happens inside them internally and externally, outwardly, when they read the text. Why? Because that is where the real transformation lies, right? Someone can read this book as a doctor and the person can receive insights that are peculiar to him. A nurse can read the same book and receive insights that are peculiar to her. An engineer can read the same book and receive insights that are peculiar to him or her. In the same vein, a business owner or a real estate broker or a financial advisor can read the same book and get an entirely different revelation, an entirely different insight. And that is how writing a book makes you, the author, someone prominent, someone impactful. When you write a book that people want, that helps people get what they want, you become prominent, you become powerful, you become a person of credibility, right? But you have to deliver it in a dynamic way that can transform the lives of people regardless of their unique personal peculiarities, right? And so that's what I mean when I say deliver dynamic transformation. And now the third thing that you should do is to distribute to diverse domains. Distribute to diverse domain. What do I mean when I say distribute to diverse domain? The same book that you have in text can be transformed into an audio form. The same book that you have in audio form can be transformed into a video course or a home study course. The same book that you have in physical copy can be a digital copy. But that's why I refer to a book as a digital asset. Why? You work on it once, but it becomes a cash flow machine in perpetuity. You write a book once, but it fetches you money every other day. That same book, one book that you wrote, can be read by millions of people, hundreds of thousands of people, and fetch you millions and even billions of dollars, right? So that's what it means when I say distribute to diverse domains. There's a lot more to say about how to distribute to diverse domains, but I would like to keep today's conversation short. So I invite you to join me on my next conversation and subscribe to this channel so that you can learn more on how to succeed as an aspiring author or as an already published author by manifesting your creativity. And feel free to drop your questions in the comment section or drop suggestions of things that you would like me to talk about in my subsequent conversations or my subsequent broadcast. Thank you for listening to me. Have a good one. Bye.